There is a sort of spiritual narcissism that exists, especially those people that think they're woke, or those people that think they're consciousness, or they think they're conscious rather. Their thinking that they are conscious is what causes their narcissism to not even be known. See, here's the thing. When you have more information than someone else, or when you know something that someone else knows, or you know something that someone else doesn't know, a lot of times you think that you are in a superior position. A lot of people think that they are in a superior position because they know more than you know, or they know something that you don't know. This is what the masses think. A wise man and woman understands that information is infinite. And a wise man and woman knows that you can pull information from all sources because all sources are here to help. You can learn from a bum. You could even learn from nature. All sources, all environments, all places, people, and things have lessons in them if you are living in the now and if you are paying attention. What spiritual narcissists are used to doing is they're used to getting things from the external world. They're used to looking from salvation from the external world. Usually, this comes due to them not getting this type of comfort, this type of love, this type of nurturing in the home environment. It is trauma. So, in order to get that attention, that love, that nurturing that you didn't get in the home, a lot of times you do things strictly for attention. That attention sometimes leads to a form of nurturing. For example, a woman could walk down the block, right now, in a thong. Or let's say a well-built man, right? Don't want to make it sexist. Let's say a well-built man can walk down the road in a thong, and a well-built woman can walk down the road in a thong. These two people would get attention, right? Now, somebody may see them because there's many people in the world, and it may not just be a strictly sexual response. It may be a response, let's get you dressed, let's get you covered, are you cold, are you hungry, right? It could be cold when these people are walking outside like this. You want to see what's wrong with them. Is there a situation? Maybe they need to call the cops, who knows what the situation may be, and there's going to be people, obviously, who don't care about what's going on at all. But the spiritual narcissist gets, so in other words, this person, they could even be offered soup, or a place to stay, who knows, somebody's bed, shoot, depending on, again, how good they look, right? So people will give them attention. Some will give them nurturing, you know what I'm saying? So these things provide validation. These are natural urges. We all need validation. We all need attention. We all need love. We are social by nature. We all are exchanging air. We all are breathing the same air. We all are drinking the same water. We all are eating food, and animals eat grass. Animals eat other animals. So we are constantly interacting with everything here on Earth. You are not the individual that you think you are, right? You are a dual. There's always a dual individual. There's a duality. There's an inner and outer person, right? There's a as above, so below. There's joy, there's pain. There's sunshine, there's rain, right? So these different modalities and that these different things that occur, I should say, what they do is they show how narcissism is formed. And this narcissism, now you have to constantly seek attention from outside of yourself. You grow up and you constantly have gotten attention and validation through this effort. So now, so you can continue getting this attention. You see this now in the form of likes on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So in order to continue getting this attention, to continue getting the validation, to continue getting the comments, sometimes either positive or negative, right? Some people don't care. In order to continue getting that attention, right? Because attention is energy. When you're paying attention to something, you're giving it your energy. There's an exchange of energy. But if you're not, if you're, the thing you're paying attention to is not paying attention to you, right? The magnetism, the exchange of energy is not as strong. In quantum physics, they have something called the observer effect. So the observer effect states that when you look at something outside of yourself, right, When you're looking at something outside of yourself, what happens is you are actually creating that. You're collapsing, you're basically collapsing waves into particles. You're turning waves into particles at that particular moment. And you're doing that through light, right? You're doing that through photons. And the photons turn from waves into particles based on your attention. So the place that you are at right now, the thing that you're looking directly at, even if it's your phone or your TV, technically only appears when you look at it. If you turn your back to your phone and your TV, it does not exist, because the observer effect and you saying that this is so makes it so, right? So you create your reality via the observer effect. So this is quantum physics. So based on the observer effect, what you look at, right, will determine how you see reality. So everyone has a different range of perspective in that observer effect. Some people think the glass is half full, some people think the glass is half empty, right? So a spiritual narcissist is a person who is constantly and knowingly seeking out information, and seeking out information from others, and seeking out information from outside sources constantly, instead of going within, instead of actually doing the work, instead of actually training the body, instead of actually nurturing the health of the body, instead of actually nurturing the actions of the body, instead of actually meditating, fire breathing, qigong, diet, meditation, alternate nostril breathing, you know what I'm saying? Some sort of physical fitness. These things are important. Controlling the breath is important to activate the vagus nerve. Your diet is important in order to build chi and build energy and build prana and build kundalini. This is what you said you want. You want to be psychic. You want to be omnipresent. You want to be omnipotent. These are the things that you have to do. But most often, people want to take the shortcut, and they want to do what Doctor Strange did in the What If episode. If you have Disney Plus, I highly recommend that you check out the What If episode with Doctor Strange, because what he does is he, in that episode, in order to gain power, right, he already has the time stone. So he's able to move and shift time whenever he wants. But he was advised by his teachers. He was advised, right, by a woman and a man to show balance in the equation. The woman representing the right brain, the man representing the left brain. This is myth, but in myth you could find truth if you know where to look. So Dr. Strange in this episode was being warned to not move time, to go back and save a loved one, because that's why he wanted to change time. So Doctor Strange had a choice to move into the future and grow past the pain, and move past the pain and move forward, or to dwell in the past. He chose to dwell in the past, right? And again, this is trauma that is inherited through childhood. This is where the narcissism comes in, not just spiritual narcissism, but just narcissism in general, because of not getting the attention, because of not getting the love. So, and that is trauma that is stuck in the past. That is situations that have happened in the past. Those are things that have happened, and now they have wreaked havoc with your body. Because every emotion is a biochemical response. Every emotion brings forth some sort of hormone, brings forth some sort of chemical. That chemical, that biochemistry, it changes, and now it affects your heartbeat. So your heartbeat produces a sound. Sound vibrates the air molecules around you. That's what sound does. Every sound that you hear, whether it's from a speaker, whether it's from a car, it vibrates the air molecules around you. So as the sound is vibrating the air molecules around you, it's forming what they call an electromagnetic field. This electromagnetic field is called also an aura. So this is what is around you based on your heartbeat. So this is how you control your frequency. Sounds produce color. There's sounds that also resonate with different colors. This is where the chakras come in, right? So, when we're going into understanding how people are, and so a lot of times narcissists, they gaslight, right? Because again, the goal is to make themselves look good so that they could continue getting energy, so they could continue to feel good. So a lot of times you'll have a narcissist, and you might be smarter than this particular narcissist, right? You may know more in a particular subject, but once the narcissist feels like they're smarter than you and they have one up on you, right? That's when they seem to shine. That's when they seem to be more energetic. That's when they seem to be happy. That's when they might laugh and crack jokes, right? This is what they do. And you may be smarter than them in a whole nother subject, right? You may be a great person at construction, or you may be an excellent, lawyer, or you might be, great with computers, or you might be great with knitting, right? You may have a skill set that the narcissist doesn't possess, but the narcissist still needs that attention, right? So you fast forward now, and the intention has to come from outside the self, because a person who is not a narcissist is looking at themselves, and they're always constantly asking themselves, how can I improve? They are not really looking for the outside world to show them how to improve. Now, when they get knowledge, right, the difference between a narcissist and a person that is sincerely following a path, right? In this case, we're talking about spirituality. The difference is the narcissist, right, again, is always looking outside themselves, always looking for information, but that's where it stops. Because again, it's all about taking, it's all about extracting. That's how they get energy. They get energy from taking and extracting and feeling that they are one up, or feeling that they are better, right? And feeling that they are in control. So the same way a spiritual narcissist, right, will get information, will get knowledge, right, will become what they call woke, right? And they will lord this information and think that they are better people, right? They will start to talk about their followers a certain way. They will start to, and even if they don't have followers, they will still seek validation from others by always espousing their ideas, even when it's not necessary. Always, bringing forth information, even in situations that don't really concern them, because again, the goal is to get attention. The goal is to shine. The goal is not really the grind. The goal is really not the lifestyle. The goal is not really spirituality. The goal is information. So a truly spiritual person, they get the information, then they work the information. That's where wisdom comes in. Because you don't have wisdom until you activate the knowledge. Once the knowledge is activated, via wisdom, now it turns into understanding. So it's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Those are the first three steps, right? But most people are narcissists. Like, don't get it twisted. We live in a capitalistic society. We live in a society where people are constantly at odds with each other. And this is child, mother, and father, even down to that level, right? So because people are at odds because of the situations and circumstances that they're born into, or just sometimes based on lifestyle choices, right? You're forced to defend yourself. You're forced to put up a wall. You're forced to always be in fight or flight, or most of the time exist in fight or flight. The unique thing about melanated beings, and even though we're constantly in fight or flight, there is there's a imperative in us that we have a desire to be engaged in the spirit. We have a desire to be spiritual. We have a desire to be happy no matter what. So we will always find joy within the pain. There'll always be some way to find happiness, right, within the pain. And this is not just for melanated beings, like a lot of people do it, but it's mostly people of indigenous culture that have these great, huge celebrations, right, where people just really get together and really just show love to each other, right? And there's music and dance, indigenous people do it the best. Let's keep it real, right? And this is because no matter what, there's a imperative in us to rise high, right? but not the narcissist. The narcissist wants to rise higher than you. The narcissist wants to rise higher than everybody. The narcissist expects everyone to be giving them energy in some way, shape, form, or fashion, because essentially a narcissist is an energy vampire. A spiritual narcissist is using their spirituality as a way to vampire, as a way to get more good feelings about themselves, more validation about themselves. This is when they start talking about themselves like they're better than you. This is when they start talking about themselves and making these crazy titles of themselves, right? Because again, it's about being better than you. And this is not to say if you have a title, right? If you're a doctor or something like that, or a lawyer or whatever, that you're not supposed to have this title, that you didn't earn this title. But if your title makes you think that you're better than, and better, not to say that, you don't have qualities that are unique, and you may be doing things that others may not be doing, that has you living a lifestyle that you're much more happy with. But do you know that there are people that are, or that were, multimillionaires, that parents have inherited a lot of money and have chose to sleep on the streets, have chose to be homeless. This is their choice. This is what they decided to do. But you want to judge them, and you want to get on your soapbox and talk about them. But what you don't realize is this is something that you've created on your own. This is something that society and culture has created as a way of life now, where people criticize people and people talk about people. As soon as you look at the situation with Sha'Carri, right? She's running her race. Okay, she failed. She was talking trash. She failed. It's funny. I laughed in the beginning too. She lost another race now. But the venom and the vitriol of how people are going at her. Some of these people are 40, 50 plus. Like, this is a 21-year-old girl. Crack a joke. It's funny. There's a situation that's funny. But to be mean, to be malicious, you know what I'm saying? To talk about this young little, it's a little girl at the end of the day. Like, she's 21. That's a young girl. Psst, you know what I'm saying? I go back to when I was 21. Shit. Like, the mind is still in development. You understand? So you have to. So the thing about, but the thing again about narcissism is people don't realize that they are. A lot of times people don't realize that they are. A lot of times people don't realize it's just a trauma response. And this trauma response has just continued on until adulthood. And it's just festered into narcissism and into gaslighting, because God forbid if a narcissist is wrong, they can't be wrong, right? They're always going to fight being wrong, because that fight of being wrong forces you now to go within self. It forces you to go within self. It forces you to meditate. It forces you to sit in nature. It forces you to do some grounding. It forces you to do some journaling. It forces you to do some writing. It forces you to take a look in the mirror. It forces you to clean up the home. It forces you to implement some new things and really work through and face your demons. And even if these demons be just memories of the past. So you have to realize, what is your real and true spiritual form? Are you out here being a spiritual narcissist? Are you just out here being woke? Are you just out here taking information, right? Vamping from the culture. And a great part of narcissism is the clothing, right? Whether it be designer clothing or whether it be conscious clothing, whether it be robes and pendants and beads and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, I do wear pendants and beads and stuff, right? But the chances of you seeing Rob Blackstone in a dashiki, unless it's an event, is going to be slim. I'm not knocking anybody who's wearing dashikis. I'm just saying the chances of me doing it is going to be slim. You know what I'm saying? And this is not to say, maybe, that'll be if I'm in Africa or, someplace where it's hot, I won't wear one. But what I'm basically trying to say, I'm not going to wear the conscious undergarment. I'm not going to wear the spiritual undergarment. All praise is due to those who do. Again, I'm not knocking it if that's your thing. But I've seen many wolves come in sheep's clothing. And part of spiritual narcissism is to wear that sheep's clothing. Because again, that's how they get your attention. Because you're looking at the external and not focused on the internal, because you haven't even focused on your internal. If you haven't focused on your internal, how can you see the internal of something else? It's impossible. So once you focus on your internal self, doing the work that you need, the meditation, the facing your fears, the stepping into and meeting new people, stepping into challenges that you haven't done, making little micro steps. Like, it's not even something that you have to rush out and do. Create a plan, write it out, create goals, take steps. You know what I'm saying? And if you fail, that day, come back again the next day. Don't beat yourself up. Don't talk down to yourself. Write it out again. Eventually what's going to happen is the more you write it out, the more you put it out into the universe, even mentally, what it's going to cause is going to cause what's called the conscious. Your conscious, your body's going to start affecting you. Because now you've put in programming in your mind, right? You programmed yourself that this is a new way I want to move. This is a new way that I want to act. This is a new way that I want to create. So now that you put in the programming, the software, right? You've inputted it. So now you're basically just programming the hardware. You're putting in code. You're coding yourself. And as you're coding yourself, what's going to happen is your body, your physical body, your gut is going to start to respond to the things that you said, right? The things that you're saying about yourself, the way that you're feeling about the things that you're saying about yourself. And most importantly, because you can't fake it, you got to do this internal work. And part of the internal work is movement. Part of the internal work is diet. Part of the internal work is physical fitness. Part of the internal work is the study. Not just hearing YouTube videos, not just hearing lectures, but actually sitting down, reading, taking notes, studying, so you can understand what you're talking about. And you can cross-reference what other people say to you, so you're not just believing what they say based on the emotional impact or the emotional resonance of their words to your emotions, right? Because that's what the preacher does, right? That's what the preacher, and when a really persuasive speaker like an Obama, they basically propel emotions. They know how to use words and attach emotions to their words. So the emotions behind their words is what's stirring you, right? So, and it's not to say that they're not articulate, but it's the way that they're speaking. It's the way that they're using tone. It's the way that they're using sound. Remember, again, sound moves air vapor, right? Sound vibrates air molecules. So if sound is vibrating the air molecules around you and creating an electromagnetic field and creating an aura, and if it's vibrating, that means it's creating what you call a vibe, then an articulate speaker like an Obama, an articulate speaker like a like a preacher, or whoever, a David Koresh. If you're not going within and saying, okay, this is what this person said, but let me make sure it's good for me. Let me make sure that even though they said it, that it makes sense to me. And that takes time. And people say, oh, they don't have time. But people make time for what they want. You know what I'm saying? People take time for what they want. If I told you was going to get $10 million and all you had to do, was wake up at 4:04 a.m. Wake up at 4:04 a.m. or be up at 4:04 a.m. You would set 5 alarms. You would tell your friends to call you. You might go to sleep early just so you could wake up at 3. Or you might just break the whole night. Because that's important. So people make time for what they want. People make time for what they... There's nothing wrong with... Again, there's nothing wrong with the external world. We're dealing with balance here. There's nothing wrong with taking in information. But if information doesn't lead to action, right, then you're just a spiritual narcissist. If you're just taking in all this wisdom and all these books and all this, you know what I'm saying, all these words and all these things, and it doesn't lead to practical action, it doesn't lead to practical change, it doesn't lead to practical transformation, you're not seeing things happen in your life that are positive and productive. And it doesn't even mean that you're not so-called winning. You're not taking trips to Ibiza and you're not driving the fancy cars and you don't have a big bank account. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, is your life filled with laughter? Do you have joy in your life? Are you able to move in peace when things happen? Because moving in peace makes you more solution-oriented than dwelling on the stress. See, most people dwell on their stress because it's the external world. So the stress of the external world puts pressure on you, right? Because we live in an external world. Let's keep it real. We live in a world where we have to deal with people, places, and things. So it gets to you. But peace of mind is knowing that life is a constant ball of chaos. Life is constantly changing. Things are constantly happening. We just had a flood in New York. No one knew was coming. There was no prediction. There was a hurricane actually, right, that flooded New York and flooded New Jersey and Connecticut and a whole bunch of other places, right? And rest in peace to everybody who passed away. But no one really knew that it was coming. There was no real warning. It came like a thief in the night, like they say in the Bible. And a lot of people lost their homes. Some people died, you know. But again, if something in your mind, your inner wisdom, right, could have set off something, and this is going deeper into spirituality, but when you're doing the spiritual work, when you're actually honoring your ancestors and lighting candles, you're actually, engaged in some sort of physical fitness, some yoga, some qigong, no matter what your health condition is, something that is getting your body moving and stimulating qi on a continuous basis, at least 3 times a week, right? When you're not just wasting your seed and sex, right? When you're not just having sex for sex sake. We all have these phases that we go through, these whole phases, right? Men have it, women have it. Some people have it for all their life, right? Some people, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle, right? But those aren't the main. If you start to see yourself getting to that point, you have to ask yourself why. Because everything that you do outside is a reflection of you. And if you don't see that, you're always going to be thinking that the reflection is against you, or the reflection is out to hurt you, when everything that happens, whether it's good or bad, is a reflection of you. And it is meant to teach you a lesson, or it is meant to take you through something, so that you could in some way transform. And most people wouldn't agree with that, because they say, well, why did this happen? And, I got hurt as a child, and, this thing happened to me when I was an adult, or this thing happened to me, just yesterday, right? How is that a reflection of me? Because when you came on this planet, with the intention of learning lessons and learning how to be of service. And that lesson could be a lesson from a past life. And if you don't believe in past lives, then you are crazy, because your DNA contains past lives. If you have a bloodline, then you have DNA, and you have past lives, and you have ancestors inside of you. So if you have ancestors inside of you, then you have past lives. So tapping into that ancestral force, it may have warned some people, you know what I'm saying? Maybe get out the house earlier or whatever, or get out the situation. I don't know. But these are the things that they call luck. But all this starts with meditation. All this starts with being out in nature. All this starts with the study. All this starts with engaging again in something physical, right? Something that's moving the body. All this starts with making your body lighter by your diet, the things you eat on a consistent basis, right? Again, not to say you can't enjoy life, not to say you can't enjoy certain foods, but what is the majority of what you're eating? What is the majority of what you're doing? What is the majority of what you're engaging in? And you have to constantly assess yourself if you are on this spiritual path. If you're not sincere, then you are simply a narcissist. You're still taking energy and vamping other people's spirits, vamping other people's creations, vamping other people's ideas. There's sometimes narcissists will take your ideas, will take your sayings, will take your frame of thought, and the things that you come up with, won't really give you credit, but won't even realize that it's your idea. These were your words. You said this, right? Because they're so used to extracting things from the environment instead of being creative on their own. And if they are creative on their own, right, it's strictly in service of them, for the most part. Not really in service of others. Strictly, and even if it is in service of others, even that service is about them. And they will show you that it is about them quickly and easily, right? So with that, I just want to say beware of spiritual narcissism, beware of narcissists in general, but beware of people out here that are vamping your energy, that are putting you black versus white when the universe is polarity, when you engage in sunshine and you engage in rain, right? When you play with fire on the stove and you go in water in the bathtub, in the shower. Let's not act like polarity doesn't exist. Let's not act like there's not masculine energy. Let's not act like there's not feminine energy. And these aren't gender roles, right? These are sexes. This is sexual energy. There's phallic energy and there's vaginal energy, okay? So let's not act like there's not duality, there's not polarity. So once we are able to rise above polarity, we are able to now assess things based on the energy, based on the history, based on the study and the examination, right? And what it does to and for the self. And we don't get caught up in pretty words. We don't get caught up in pretty ideas. We don't get caught up in pretty clothing. We don't get caught up in perception. We get caught up in what's really there, and then we are able to make wise judgments based on a knowledge base and a study of the situation, the person, the place, and the thing. And the ultimate, this requires for you to be at peace so you could be in the moment. And this is why stress is so destructive, because stress is not solutions. Stress is stress. Stress is pressure on the body. It's fight or flight. But it's shifting that energy. Once you're at peace, then peace is going to force you to say, okay, this is happening. I don't like it. How can I fix it? But when you're stressed, you're constantly dwelling on the situation. So with that said, again, peace, power, and prosperity. One love. Hit me up for my elemental magic class if you're interested in learning magical techniques so that you could conjure up different things on this planet, practical techniques that you could take out into this world, and practical study that you could use to enhance your inner development so that you can reflect your inner into the outer world instead of reflecting your outer into the inner, which is what most people do. All right? And my premise is that most people are narcissists, they just don't know it. And some have different degrees of narcissism, but they just don't know it. Peace, power, and prosperity. Rob Blackstorm, one love.